Hello wonderful people, it's Wild here. In today's video, I'll be showing you part 2 of how to create this magical floating balloon house. In this part, we'll be creating both the balloons and finishing off this build, so if you haven't already created the house and platform, check out part 1 in the description below. The material list for this complete build is on your screen now, so that includes the house, the platform, and both of the balloons. Because this is part 2, we will already have used about half of these supplies, so make sure you have got everything else gathered. And don't forget, you can swap out the colours of the wool to create your own unique design for this balloon. I've gone with red, blue and white, but you can use your favourite colours here. The first thing we're going to do is grab some spruce fences and build up the connection between the house and the large balloon. I'm going to come to the front right corner of the chimney here and build up 8 on top of this wall with my spruce fences. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. This is the height that we want all of the fences for this first layer to go up to. I'm then going to skip a block here, imagining I'm counting directly along, and go down to this stair here, and I'm going to build up to the same height. So I should be able to fit just one block in between, like that. Next, I'm going to go diagonally across one block to this wall here and build up to that same height. So I should be able to fit one block in on a diagonal, like that. I will skip another block and build up to the same height here. There we go. Skip a diagonal block and come over to this stair and go up to that same height. You'll find that this one should line up with that first one we built at the front. Skip a block and I'm going to come across to here. This will line up with that second one we built there, up to the same height once again. And you can always check that you can fit just the one block in between. Then we're going to go across on a diagonal. So this is our diagonal block over to here beside the chimney, up to the same height. This should line up with that one over on that side. There we go, and skip one more block, which will be here, so we'll place it beside this chimney all the way up to that height once again. And I'll just check, I can fit one block in between and then one block on a diagonal like that. There we go, these should form sort of a circle. Now using some white wool, I'm going to build 2 down and 3 across on each of these sections. They'll connect on the corners, creating a square on the interior. It'll look like that from above. I'm going to grab some spruce slabs now, and excluding this very corner, I'm going to place them in on the top layer of the bottom block. So from underneath, you'll be able to see just a little edge of the white there. I'm going to take some more white wool and place one in each corner. And I'll add one more block on top of that. Just like this. I'm then going to build up 2 high, 3 across like this on each of these groups of fences. And then I'll connect to them on the corners just by adding an extra block. So it'll look like that. I'm going to grab some more spruce fences and place 2 continuing the line from the fences below. Because we are building a hot air balloon, it is radially symmetrical, so you can check that all of your sides look exactly the same. Okay, back to some white wool now. I'm going to build 3 across the top of these fences we've just added in, and then in the corners I'm just going to add in a little corner bracket like this and jump up in the center. There we go. For the next layer, we're going to add in a fence just one high onto either one of these blocks. And these fences are quite useful, not only because they are going to be the decorative ropes that we've added to our balloon, but they allow us to build on top of them. I'm going to add 3 more blocks now on top of these. And then I'm going to be placing in a fence onto those blocks on either side. I'm then going to use those to add in another wall to fill in the corner gap. So when we look from above now, it's kind of like a pointy sort of octagon. And when we look from the front, our ropes are starting to curve out to the side. Next, I'm going to use a temporary block in the center of each of these 3 wide sections to place in a T shape like this. I'm using some dark blue wool here, but you can just use dirt or anything. It's always a good idea to remove these as you go, otherwise you're going to have a lot of tidying up to do inside your balloon when it comes time to decorate. Now that we've got these T's, we're going to be creating these little L shapes like this, which are going to go on top of the fences below. There we go. Now we just need to fill in these corners. We're going to need a temporary block to do this, and we are going to build up on either side and then in the center. And we'll remove that block. Up on either side and in the center. There we are. This is going to have a more angular shape to the last layer. We're going to grab our fences now and we're going to place them onto these blocks here beside the T on either side. For the next layer, we're going to start the same way, adding in these little T's using some temporary blocks. And I'll do those on all of the sides. And then off to either side of the T, I'm going to make a sort of zigzag shape. So we'll go 2 and then 2 again. Now we've just got to fill in the corners here. To fill in these corners, we're first going to grab some spruce fences and curve out once more by placing them into these gaps here and here. There we go. Now I can grab my white wool, and by placing onto the fences, I can create a little L shape like this. This is easiest to do from the inside of the balloon. And we should have a nice circular shape to the top of the balloon so far. The next section of the balloon is going to look a bit funny because it's going to have a jagged edge. We're going to be creating a colourful cloth that goes over the top of this balloon, and to give us as much space as possible inside, we're going to finish off the white section here. So on each of the 3 white sections in the centres of each of the sort of faces of the balloon, I'm going to create a little L shape going out to either side, leaving a little T-shaped space. And then on the block directly behind that, I'll build up 2 as well.
Now in each of the corners, I'm going to build out to a point and add one extra block. I think that's all of them done. There we go. So you can see it almost looks like a flower from above. And if we go down, you can see the shape of the balloon starting to form, and we'll cover up the top in just a second. To make the colourful cloth for the balloon, I'm going to start by making a frame that's going to go across from front to back and left to right. They're going to be all the same, so I'm going to start at the front, but it doesn't really matter where you start. I'm using my first accent colour, in this case red, and I'm building 2 blocks down from the point of this first white section here. I'll then add a note block and then 2 spruce fences from that. On top of that, I'll use my second colour, in this case blue, and build up 2. Then I'll build up 2 blocks with a target block or another decorative block. Then we've got light blue wool and then red wool again. I'm going to grab some spruce stairs. I'll place 1 onto this blue wool and then come 3 down with my fences. Above this, I'm going to add in a trapdoor and a stair on top of the wool. Coming back from that, I'm going to build 2 up with my red wool. I'll add in a trapdoor and a stair. Then I'll have another red wool. In this case, I'm going to go straight on with a stair. Another red wool, another stair. Then I'll have 2 red wools going in towards the center like this. I'll place a trapdoor and then a stair on top of this. I'm going to have another group of 2, and this time I'll have a trapdoor and then a slab. So here is how that arch is going to look, and we're going to repeat that in the center of each of the other sides. Let's start on this one. And our 2 fences. Blue wool, target, blue, red. Let's add in the decoration now. And we're going to start curving in towards the center. These should meet with a gap block in the center here. Once you've got at least 2 of your arches complete and you can see where they meet, you can add 1 more of the red wool in and then a note block on top. Now you can go ahead and add in your remaining 2 arches. Now we're ready to start filling in each of these sections. I'm going to be working on just 1 quarter and then replicating it on the other 3 because they are matching. I'm starting with some note blocks here, and I'm going to place 1 onto each of these top red sections like that. Then I'll add 2 red blocks on top. I'll add in another note block onto that red block there and another red wool. And I'm going to have 1 red wool going back towards the center of the balloon like that. Next, I can take a note block and I'm going to place it beside that red wool. There we go. And I'm going to place a note block going down diagonally, filling in that gap. Next, I've got some red wool and I'm going to place 2 beside those 2 note blocks, and they'll touch on the corner. And then I can use a temporary block to add 1 red wool and 1 note block going down from there like this. I've got some red wool again, and I'm just going to place 1 on top of this note block here and this note block here. And then I'll need to use a temporary block to have the wool sit 1 back from that last top note block. So it'll look kind of like an M shape. Now I'm going to grab some light blue wool. I'm going to place 2 going up beside the target blocks on either side there like this, and I'll add a target block on top. Then I'm going to take another blue wool and place it onto this red wool diagonally back, add a target and then a wool going towards that arch. Now I need to curve over the top of where this M is. I'm going to start in the center of the M first, add in a light blue wool, a target, and then a wool on top of that. Going off to either side, I'll add in another wool, and then I'm going to add a target onto this center block on either side so they're diagonally set back like this. I can add a light blue wool on top of each of those, and we just need to fill in this section here now. So I'm going to add in a wool on top of this red wool below, a target block on top of that, and we need to finish off this blue section by adding a blue wool behind these two top targets. You can see that set one back from this second target along in the pattern. And then I need to use a temporary block on top of these two targets to set another wool a block back. So this is also creating a slightly larger M shape. We're going to have another layer of red now. So I'm going to be placing in one block here, then a group of two. Then I'll use a temporary block to add in another group of two, like this. One block, group of two, temporary block, another group of two. To fill in this corner, we're going to need some temporary blocks to place in a red wool just here like this, and then another two red wool to connect diagonally across. There we go. And we're going to finish off the red layer by adding in two more blocks going up like this, so there is a diagonal gap between them. The rest we're going to need some more of this light blue wool. I'm going to place one on top of here, one on top of here, and then use a temporary block to add one in the corner. There we go. Then I'm going to add one on this side and this side, and use a temporary block to add in two more, so we've got 4 blocks in a diagonal line. We've got some red wool now, and I'm going to create a sort of M shape like this and add one red wool in the top corner. Here's how it will look. We've got striping, kind of zigzagging bands of red, blue, and then red at the top. I'm going to go ahead and repeat this design on each corner. It's easiest to go layer by layer and color by color, so you're only having to think about one thing at a time. Just adding in my last bits of red wool now, and let's have a look. That is really looking like a balloon now. You can see the shape that we've formed, and we've got a lovely base to our cloth. Now that step was a little bit confusing, but you can always double check that your sides match, and if they aren't quite perfect, it's okay. Since it's a cloth thrown over the top of a hot air balloon for decoration, there might be a little bit of movement to the fabric, and we're going to be adding lots of decorations anyway. We're going to be using lots of spruce for this step in the decoration. I'm going to start at the bottom of this lowest point on the flatter side here, and I'm going to place in a trapdoor onto the note block, then a stair, and I'm going to follow this pattern up, trapdoor, and then a stair, and then a trapdoor, and then one more stair, and I'm going to finish diagonally down from this note block here. I'll add a trapdoor on top of that, and then I'm going to grab a few fences, and I'm going to follow a line up from this last fence we placed in on the white balloon to connect up underneath that note block. So when you look from the face, it looks like this. Coming back over, I'm going to be placing in a trapdoor onto that fence and folding it down. It's going to sit in front of this note block. Then I'll place in a stair underneath the note block, and another one underneath this red wool, and then a trapdoor here. And I'll finish off with the spruce fence. So when you look from the flat face, you can see that we framed the edge of the cloth with some spruce. I can then rotate, and I can do the same thing in reverse. So we've got a trapdoor, a stair, a trapdoor, a stair, a trapdoor, a stair. I can place my trapdoor on top of here now. I'm going to place in 3 more of my fences, another trapdoor in here, and then we've got to come down, a stair, stair, trapdoor. There we go. I can repeat this same decoration on the other 3 sides now. That first layer of decoration is all added in. You can see that as we add more and more layers to this decoration, it's not going to matter quite as much about whether you've got your points exactly even. Alright, now we need to add in a layer of decoration around about where this blue band is. So I'm going to find this first stair that we added in above these two of the target blocks on the arches. I'm going to add a trapdoor beside that. Make sure it flips up to cover the target block. Then I'm going to add a slab going back towards there. I'll add 2 slabs on the next layer up. I'll come a slab down, another slab, 2 slabs on the next layer up, a slab down, and I'll finish with a trapdoor, and that should connect us up to that stair. Back in the center where we have got these 2 of the slabs diagonally connected, I'm going to add in another trapdoor and then a trapdoor below to create the look of a slab sloping down. Let's do this on the other sides.
If you're enjoying today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me out.
And here's how that should look. We've created a series of very subtle arches. Next, we'll come up to this second red band, and for this I'm going to start in this diagonal corner where we've got these 2 red blocks beside each other and then a blue block in the center. I'll place in 2 slabs off to either side, then a trapdoor off to either side, and then I'll place a trapdoor on the layer below. This should flip down. So you can see it creates a slight curve. The last detail we're going to add to this large balloon is some banners. This is to help blend the look between the red and the blue on these points. So I'm going to place a blue banner on this blue block so it hangs just in front of the red, and then 2 red banners on these blue blocks so they hang again in front of the red. You can see how it creates a nice subtle transition. If you're building this in survival and are trying to save on resources, this is a step that you could leave out. But it is these small details that really make a big difference if you're trying to create a show-stopping build. There we go. Let's now move on to the second smaller balloon. This is going to be using the same colors and the same sort of design with the swooping edges, but it's going to have a different look to it. We're going to find the center block. This should be easy with the base we've created here, and build up 5 high with a temporary block. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to be building off of this. We're going to be creating 4 color panels out of red and white, or whatever wool color you've decided to use for your balloons. I'm going to start with my red wool, and I'm going to place one onto this top block of that 5 stack and another one on top. And then I'll curve up like this over towards the left hand side. We're going to be using quite a few temporary blocks here. I'll have one going forward like this. Then I'm going to need to place in a temporary block on top of that and create 3 blocks going diagonally towards the left. Let's remove those as we go. So you can see this is going to be a straight line going up, and then it is going to flare out towards the left hand side. I'm going to place in some more temporary blocks here so that I can add in another 4 blocks going diagonally towards the left. Just like this. Now I'm going to add 1 more block on top of this one here, and then I can build up 5 high beside it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Behind that, I'm going to be using a temporary block to build up 2 high. Like that. And I can use that same temporary block to build up 2 high again and then connect it on the diagonal like this. Finally, I can add in one more of my temporary blocks and build up 5 high here as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll just check those are level. When we look from the front now, here's how it will look. We've got some gaps to fill in. I'm going to use a temporary block to come one forward with a red wool, then a target block, and then another red wool. And I can curve back in over the top now. Lining up with that center target block, I'll place in a red wool here and a red wool here. And that will leave us with this corner section where I'm going to build up 2 high. I can then build 3 high off to either side of that. Just like this. Next, I'm going to add one more block on top of here, and then a block coming back from each of these 2 diagonal ones. So it creates this corner shape like this. Next, I'm going to use a temporary block to create an L shape to fill in this corner here. And I'll use a temporary block again to come one back from this center section here. Finally, I'm going to grab a temporary block and create another L-shaped section to fill in what is left of this corner. Here's how it will look from the front and from the side. I'm going to rotate 180 degrees now to the back of the build, and I'm going to create this same design, except this time it's going to look like it's going the other direction, which is again the left when you're looking from the back. So the steps are going to be exactly the same. I'll start by building up 2 and then 2 off to the side. Temporary block, come 1 forward. Temporary block, 3 in a diagonal. And I'll just continue on with this same process. I'm almost at the very top. I'm just adding in my last 2 little L-shaped pieces. You'll find that when you have finished these 2 red sections, they won't quite meet in the center. There's going to be a little gap and they'll look a little bit offset from one another. But you should find that your target blocks line up if you add X-ray vision. We're going to be using white wool to fill in the remaining 2 sections. These white sections actually have the exact same shape, but let's work on one together. I'm going to start by building up 2 blocks and then 2 blocks off to the left-hand side, just as I did before. Then I can place in a temporary block and come 1 forward. Temporary block, and I'm going to create 3 on a diagonal. Temporary block, and then 4 on a diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like that. Next, I'm going to place 2 going off of this block. I'll use a temporary block to have 2 more here and here. And then I can connect my last one up to this T-shaped section now of the red. Just like that. I'm going to come forward now and add in a white wool, a target block, and then a white wool. On this block behind, I can build up to the same height as that and then curve over the top. Just like this. Over on this side beside the red wool, I'm going to build up to the same height as this side where we've got the red. And I can add in 2 blocks pointing towards each other here. We've got 3 more wool to place in on a corner like this. Then I'll come up 2 blocks and back 2 blocks on the diagonal like that. Next, I'm going to build up 2 and then in towards the red side on each side. And to fill in this section here, I'm going to add 1 more block on top. And then just as on the red, I'm going to use a temporary block to place in a white wool going diagonally up. Then I need to add in my white wool L shape like this. And then here's where it's going to differ a little bit. I'm going to add in the last L shape to fill in here, but I'll start moving towards the next side, adding in that center block. Here's how it'll look. Let's go around and do it 1 more side to fill in this section. So 2 and then 2. Coming 1 forward. And then our diagonals. and we'll continue up until we have reached the top. Once again, you can always check the way that your other sections look to make sure that everything is symmetrical, remembering that we're lining up across with where our target is going to be from the other side. Almost there with the main shape of this balloon, we've just got to fill in the top and that last little diagonal, and you can see that everything should be filled in and connected now. So you can see we've got these lovely offset panels of red and white alternating around the balloon. Now I need to bring in some blue. We're going to grab some spruce fences now, and starting at the base of the balloon, I'm going to follow up the center until I am below the 3 high section where the target block is. I'll then go off to either side and build up 2 like this. Next, to match the larger balloon with these spruce sections curving over the top, we're going to create a similar design down here. So I've got to take a spruce trapdoor and I'm going to place it over the top of where we've got the trapdoor, the target block rather. Then we've got a stair, then a trapdoor. Then we're going to have 2 stairs. Then we'll finish with a trapdoor, a slab, and then I'll place 2 slabs in the center. There we go, I've replicated that on all of the sides now and you can see it curving over the top. Now we're going to create some connecting swoops. Let's start with the top connecting swoop, which is going to go between these 2 trapdoors here and here. I'm going to place in a slab on either side so it is diagonally up from this first stair. Then I'll place in a trapdoor so that it flips up, and then a trapdoor in the center so that it flips down. You can see this creates a nice subtle curve. There we go. Let's create the larger curve. This is where our blue wool is going to hang from. So I'm going to come to where this lower trapdoor is and place a trapdoor beside that with a slab underneath. I'll do this on both sides. Then I'm going to come diagonally down with another slab like this. And then I'll place in 2 trapdoors so that they flip upwards. If you have them so that they flip downwards in that section, you won't be able to place wool underneath. Almost all the way around, and then we can start adding in that colourful blue wool. There we go. Let's grab out some blue wool now. You're also going to want some light blue banners on this step. I'm going to place a single block underneath these 2 slabs and then 2 underneath the trapdoors. I'll add in a light blue banner onto this top slab here and here. Let's go all the way around adding in this decoration, and when we step back it'll have a lovely swagged effect. Let's take a look. That looks fantastic. You can see that there is a huge amount of space inside of this hot air balloon for decorating. And if you would like to see how I style the inside of this hot air balloon, as well as the house and the other smaller balloon, be sure to check out Patreon. I also go behind the scenes on how to decorate the exterior. But I'm back outside now and we need to finish up this smaller balloon. I'm going to grab some more of these spruce fences and place 4 into each corner like this. I can then get rid of these temporary blocks, and just as before, I'm going to sneak up inside, quickly place in some torches. Oh, no mobs inside this balloon, and then I'll line myself up with the center and hang down some glowberries. There we are. To connect this balloon, instead of using fences as stand-in ropes, I'm going to use some sort of animal, in this case cats, but you could use chickens or whatever you like, and I'm going to place them into these little corner sections that we created. And you get Mr. Cat. Then I can use a lead, flip that trapdoor closed and connect it up to that fence we've just added in. This has a fantastic look. It looks just like ropes. There we go, last cat. The good thing about cats as well is it will keep some creepers away. There we are, we've got all of our lovely ropes in and we've got our glowberry vines. All that we need to do now is add in the finishing touches, so let's do this.
Alright, all of the finishing details have been added, so let's check it out. Up on the actual build you can see that I've added lots of greenery, so I've placed some azalea leaves draping down off the edge of the build, hanging down nearabouts where I've got the lanterns. And just as with the lanterns where I have them at multiple heights, I've got these leaves hanging down at multiple heights for that natural look. I've brought the leaves up a little bit further and brought them over the house, but I've left the balloon clear of leaves. I've also gone ahead and added in pot plants all around this build in front of each of the windows here, as well as over here on the landing platform. And I've used a mixture of small pots and these decorated pots as well. I've used colours that complement the colours in my hot air balloon, and since I've got the blue and the red as well as the white, I've used those colours plus purple as a little bit of a bridge between them. One of the wonderful things about having a floating house is that you've got so much space to have a garden below. So let's have a look at how I've laid out the exterior of this build. One of the key things that I made sure to place in first was underneath where each of my platforms sits. I've added in sort of a garden bed in roughly the shape that is made by the platform. So that way it looks like the house was plucked out of the ground, floating into the sky, leaving behind this dirt-colored patch where I've placed flowers just around the edges, so that way you can see that there was something there originally. I've mirrored the curve of the bridge in the pathway that connects us here. That way again it leads up to what would have been the front door if the house had not been hoisted into the sky by these beautiful balloons. I've used these pathways to lead to different areas within the garden, which is a great way to break up a large space like we have here. I've opted for a neutral mix of gravel and then dead coral blocks to create my pathway, and you can use either a method like this or path blocks work great. That way we can let the colours from the balloon and the flowers really be the showcase. I've used the same wood that we used for the platforms to create all of the furniture around my garden, so let's check out some of these areas. Over here where I've got my little gas sitting, I've created a gas stop. Instead of a bus stop, it's a gas stop. I've created a little shelter with a seat underneath and then a place to hook your ghast up so he doesn't fly away. The ghasts can get pretty high off the ground if you place the lead right on ground level, and you're not able to get onto them if they fly up that high. So what I've done is I've hidden my lead underneath this lantern here, and you can still reach it to hook your ghast up and take him off to fly up to your house. The next area I've created is over here where I've got my garden. I've placed all these wheat fields around where my house would be, and then I've added in a well over here, and then a little scarecrow on the other side. By distributing your decorations throughout the garden, it gives you something to look at no matter which direction you're facing, which brings me to this area at the front of the garden where I've created a little seating zone. I've gone for quite a lush rustic look for the garden of this build, so I've left lots of grass and ferns around, and then I've used the same azalea leaves from the decoration on the build to create these custom bushes framing the pathway. I've used those alongside these broken pieces of fence just to direct your eye towards each of my landscaped areas. One thing you might want to keep in mind when placing in a build like this one, especially if you're going to go with a spruce biome like I have to tie in with the spruce in the build, is that you want to keep the trees behind the build quite low. So I've used the taller spruce off to each side to create a nice frame, but you can see I've planted just the short trees behind the build, so that way the build really stands out. So now you have got a show-stopping floating balloon house. If you enjoyed creating this build, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a like and subscribe, and be sure to join my Discord and share some pictures. I'd especially love to see if you changed up the color of the balloon. Happy building, and I'll see you in another video.